everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst. All right. Thank you. This is an amazing day. It's Friday, my favorite day. My name is Sandra Horton, and I'm excited because we are at the Leadership Heart Podcast. And this is such an amazing, again, day because we did not lose Wi-Fi here. I know half of Canada is down on Rogers, but we are great. And I'm so honored and so excited to be able to bring to you live today someone who I absolutely cherish, who is a beautiful soul, Barbie Layton. Thank you so much. I'm going to do a little intro as I bring up my beautiful Barbie Layton. She is not only an international bestseller author, but she is an amazing person who ignites so many beautiful souls. And she has been on the stage of amazing, amazing people and has been providing beautiful work for 25 years in her speaking engagements. And she was on the New York Times Square Billboard. I got to bring my beautiful friend up. There she is. Hello,
Hi.
beautiful Barbie. Thank you so much. You know, just the power of who you are and what you do and how you transform so many wonderful lives. This is really my greatest honor to have you and to share a little bit around not only the work that you're doing to transform lives, you know, uncovering, unlocking, and unleashing people's core wounds. I mean, I'm one of those beautiful people who've had that exceptional experience to work with you, but also the work that you're doing with Rhonda Swan and Women Gone Wild. And I mean, I'm looking at this beautiful list of all your exceptional things that you've been. You're not only, exceptional talent, but you're also a speaker, and you really captivate me in terms of your conscious leadership. So let's dive in. I have a few beautiful questions. What would you like to share? Because you sense so many wonderful things in your life. When you look back in this moment, what has been your most beautiful key learning? And I just love to hear that. Just let's begin. What is your number one key thing?
So first of all, thank you for having me. Really appreciate for the viewers that are looking and the people come off for recording right now. I have original set designs that are from Hollywood movies. I'm in a suite in the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel, about ready to go to the Napoleon Hill Foundation Mastermind fundraiser tomorrow in the Hollywood Hills, which is just so exciting. And it goes to two things that I love to talk about. And those are that when you play with the universe and when you stay in childlike wonder and you suspend disbelief, miracles can happen in your life. And that is something that I found a lot of the women, especially that I work with, a lot of my international clients, my CEO and individual clients, it's the idea that somehow your life has become static because you've turned a certain age or you've done a certain thing or you've made certain choices in your life. And no, at this point in time, I can't decide to go be an astronaut. I mean, that would be definitely something outside of the realm of possibilities. But it's still, I love the fact that there's so many people pivoting in their lives that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I mean, we have in the mastermind that you and I are in together, we have Dennis Waitley, who is 89, just turned 90 years old. And the oldest member, and I mean, she's like, should run circles around people.
Circles around us.
Yeah, like Diana Wentworth is in the Women Gone Wild series that I'm absolutely, and she's 81 and just absolutely luminous light. So it's really showing people that in a society really obsessed with youthfulness, youthfulness is an inside job, and it really, really is who you are on the inside. So if you stay in that joy and that fun and that laughter and the, oh my God, I'm in Hollywood at a hotel. It's like, it's so much fun.
It is so true. And I love what you started out with, that childlike wonder. You know, for some people in their journey, Barbie, that isn't always so easily to be able to just open up and look at things with gratitude or look at things that, are different. So how have you been in your beautiful world? How have you been able to shift your perspective to really unlock yourself? Can you share that with my audience?
So my journey has been, the chapter that I wrote in the book, The Women Gone Wild, is called From Tragedy to Triumph. So anybody thinking that everything's been hunky-dory is absolutely, that would be completely mistaken. But it's flipping the perspective of an intentional life in the sense of where it's like, okay, it's even like with the concept of, gasoline prices at this moment with different things like that.
Yeah.
My complaining about them doesn't change the price of them. So instead, if I could flip things to gratitude and go from a perspective of like, okay, I'm so grateful that I have the funds to be able to pay for this petrol. I'm so grateful that I have a car that can take me where I want to go, which brings me freedom, which then I go through kind of a litany of things, especially if I'm feeling kind of, down about it. And I just try to reacquire, like rewire it to a different perspective so that I have the opportunity to see it from a different vantage point. And then from there, I have gratitude for that is put into my life, even though the price of it isn't what I am, normally used to paying.
Happy with it. It's like, I don't know what it is in the States, but here in Canada, I take premium gas. It's like $2.34 or something per liter. It's pretty tough.
Yeah. And that's the part about it in the sense of where, I've been through many times in my life where I haven't had any extra. And I've had to, I used to make jokes with my friends in college that when you could afford sour cream on your bean burrito at Taco Bell, it was like a woohoo, you just scored.
It's a moment. Yeah, it's a moment, isn't it? Like it is interesting because we have a choice, don't we, Barbie? You're making purposeful choices. The question I have, because you're very amazing in terms of your connection and to ignite from your heart to above and just connecting into that source. How, if you could share with people in that moment of awakening, what do you do? How do you create that moment of just the awakening? I guess that's maybe my question that I have that's coming up for me that will help people.
Well, I guess, and in some ways, I guess I sound kind of like a broken record because I definitely have bad moods, but it's still, if the first thing you can say when you wake up in the morning is thank you. I really love Ken Honda. He's been a mentor for me for the last couple of years, and somebody I got to be a leader with in the Arigato community. And he was one of my first guests on my TV show on The Best of You.
Wow, Ken Honda. Wow, that's amazing. He's exceptional.
Oh, he has 50 million downloads in the world, and he's one of the #1 Spanish speaking translated people, thanks to his connection with Dame Doria Cordova, whom is also a co-friend of ours. But I think it's still the philosophy that he always talks about with Happy Money is the arigato in and arigato out. So I started kind of almost being dramatic with it in the last couple of years of where I would have I would be with a cashier or a waiter or somebody in a space of a sales transaction. And I would just get out my credit card or my cash and I'd say, out of my abundance, I gratefully pay this to you. And people had these really weird reactions. Like, I had men bow to me. I had like just different kinds of experiences where it was like these very strange things, but it was still, I think we're so begrudging a lot of times with the, bills that we have to pay and things like that. And so if every time I pay a bill, even if I know that, it's whittling down and I'm still having to stretch in a financial way, by saying thank you to the cable company, I'm blessing all those people that are keeping it on. By blessing the internet company, I'm blessing all those people that are allowing me to have a device and internet connection, things like that. And I think my perspective is very unique in the sense of where most people don't go to those spaces because it's like when you start to take all of these things for granted, like gravity or whatever else, you can't shift it into that higher consciousness. You can't go into that higher space. But gratitude is a frequency. I believe it's 539 hertz. And the frequency that I love to focus is on the hue, which is 528 hertz on the solfeggio frequency. And that's the tone of DNA, creativity, love, and regeneration. So if gratitude and love are almost like within 11 points away from each other on a numerical scale for sound, then by staying in that frequency as often as possible, and every time you jump out of it or you fall out of it, you refocus your attention of like, okay, well, what would it take for me to step back into that gratitude? What is going to bring me the most joy to be able to step back into that space? And then trying to live in those, like you said, a moment to moment. Because I don't think anyone gets there 24 hours a day unless they're meditating in a cave.
It's so true. And those are the moments of, and I love the work that you're doing through the Infinity Life program. And please do check out what Barbie has. This is amazing. I'm participating in it. and you're teaching people how to actually not only bring in their frequencies, elevate their frequency, clear things from themselves, because that's such a key piece. Everything is coming at us. And as a leader, if we can clear things that perhaps hold us down, and we can rise up, we can be more present with ourselves and with others. And so I'd love to give you a little bit of time just to share on, some elements of that, because I'm such a huge proponent. I love it. I'm enjoying it. And that's part of the 3 L's of consciousness, and my being a conscious leader is learning. So would you mind sharing a little bit about that program? I think that's a really great program for so many people around the world.
Oh, I'd love to. Thank you. So I ended up co-founding that with 2 other people, one in Europe and then one else in the United States. And it was something in the sense of where it was looking at the core wound, in the sense where we almost all have kind of like a computer virus that has been kind of given to us at this, original sensitization that we have. So for a lot of people, it can be fear of rejection, fear of abandonment. It can be fear of many different things. And there are about 7 or 8 core different ones. But by identifying what those are, and then having a whole process of being able to clear that out of your system, it's completely scalable in the sense of where once people learn the technique, they can do that on their own within 5 minutes of clearing themselves and bringing themselves back into alignment with muscle testing and kinesiology that we use in that sense too. But what's been so great about it is that it can go into any community. So it can go into Africa, it can go into Middle East, it can go into, South America, it can go into Australia, it can go anywhere. And it's completely scalable in the sense of where it's like people teaching other people how to be able to do that. And so our next evolution of this that we're really excited, and we're talking to a fantastic executive team of a worldwide international company, is what would that look like to be able to have a business meeting of where everybody tunes in to what their frequency is on that moment. They can recalibrate themselves within 3 to 5 minutes. And then at a business meeting, have this ability to see accountability wise that they have 300 to 500%, increase in their profitability, or with their, collaboration abilities, or the creative juices, etc. Because everybody knows how that works when you go into a staff meeting and nobody wants to be there, and everyone's like, irritated,
so
right? I mean,
my gosh.
this person's on their phone, that person's on this device, this person doesn't want to hear it. Everyone goes to their same corner, their same seat.
Like this.
Yeah. But if everyone had the ability to say, okay, we have all taken this training together, and of course the confidentiality would be important too, that bosses can't use the information from their employees. And we really have thought about that too. But it's still, if we were in a meeting together with 12 people and we say, okay, this is our goal, we need to make this much for Q1, but then, this person's on an off space, you could literally take 2 to 3 minutes where the whole entire group can do that calibration of where they get up into a high frequency. And then if you're able to manifest that and then even more, and you exceed your expectations, I think that could even be revolutionary, even in the business world. It's not just a personal thing any longer.
100%, Barbie. I just came from a meeting I was facilitating today on a vision workshop with this project where I'm at with the health region. We're looking at transforming into virtual healthcare in some areas, and I actually brought up about being present with each other, but then also having presence. This is the interesting thing as we rise. This is about leadership heart as well. It's like that connection and vibing high, but knowing who we are in the essence of us, and then raising our frequency, becoming more conscious. So in that L kind of learning phase, we have to, as our mentor, Sykes always says, we have to be it. Mindset is key. How have you been able to, because mindset, I think, it runs right alongside with the whole vibration, the energies, the focus, the commitment. Having gratitude is key. So when we're doing that every day, you said start at gratitude and then take action, bring it into the boardroom. What about living it? What have you found very helpful beyond having gratitude? We set our intentions. What is your kind of sweet sauce, your way of doing things that you're living every day in this most infinite possible abundant way? Can you share that with us? I love to tap into that too.
Thank you. Well, it's a very interesting question, because ultimately I think that what I've kind of come to the conclusion of is the fact that there is the 3D reality of the human, and then there's the 5D aspirational reality of the human. And I oftentimes don't allow those two to meet. I make them completely separate. I imagine that my 5D is up to the right and my 3D is down to the bottom. And they're kind of these almost like spheres of influence of where they're going to different places. Because when the manifestation work that I do, being able to help people to manifest jobs and money and babies and go into remission for different things. It's like, you know, it's I'm not a doctor, but it's still watching these actual things come into 3D reality of people have been able to believe that. But I think it's also loving people where they are, in the sense of where even in the spiritual world, there's so many people that I think they really believe the books that they've read or the books that they've written and the philosophies they're teaching. But then if you look a lot of times at the human, they're not living up to the ideals that they're putting forward because they are aspirational. And so, you know, I did a podcast about a month ago that's coming out on Tuesday with the CEO of 11 in Dubai, who is just a delightful man. And he just said, you know, Barbie, you really see every person as a possibility. And that was such a good reframe for me because I like to talk to the busboys. I like to talk to the waiters. I like to talk to the cashiers. I'm not always in the mood, but by the same token, I want to acknowledge human to human that I see you. I don't see myself as better than anybody else. And what I find is that the world becomes my oyster because by recognizing and prizing them in that moment, and that's based on Carl Rogers' work, who does the unconditional positive regard. It's something that you get the best service, you get the best opportunities. People, you know, all of a sudden you get a second glass of champagne at the Ivy in Los Angeles, or, you know, just other cool VIP experiences that I've had just because you show up as nice. And that's the mission for me, is in the sense like my TV show, I talk about the kindness revolution, and I have 30 countries so far that are already represented in that sense. But a smile is free and it's technically the universal language. But it's almost like, I think when people don't live up to the ideals that they expect them to live in, people get really cynical or bitter or disillusioned, and they just want to chuck the whole person. And we're human beings. We're not human doings, and we're not gods. So therefore expecting that. And then, you know, if somebody violates your boundaries, obviously, and things like that over and over again, you do need to release that person from your life. But we need to give people opportunities to do better by telling them what it is that was the issue with us, that we had an issue with, and then see whether or not they want to work with it or not. And
so that's really powerful. Huge. You know, it is huge, because I want to also just kind of take that moment and just have that reflection, because you're meeting people where they're at. You are open to everyone. You're open to looking at the greatness. It's like almost like an appreciative inquiry position within an environment. Like, you are great with who you are. You have wonderful strengths. You're unique. I want to honor and respect you in that way. And then how can we come into kind of that collaboration? You know, for me, it's that essential heart connection. It's trusting ourselves. Because what I have found in my own personal journey of awakening is that, you know, for some people, I mean, I lived my life numb for 34 years. I was so externally focused because I didn't know anything different or better. And again, no judgment, but just that awareness. And when I began to come within and realize who I was, what had occurred in the past happened for me, I awakened to that truth, and I became more heart-centered. One of the things that I find quite interesting in looking at leaders today, Barbie, is sometimes they're still here. They're in their mind, processing, not connecting to their heart space. And when we're able to shift and awaken and go within to our heart, to our mind, to a higher calling, we're transcending. So can you help the viewers and the audience understand, how can you transcend? Let's say you have this moment of awakening. Now what? What do I do? How can I come into that space?
Well, again, I think it's the whole thing. I mean, my elevator pitch when I work with people is that, you know, I want them to re-fall in love with themselves, become the VIP of their own lives, and reanimate their dreams. Those are my 3 goals. But I think that a lot of times people, when they hit 40 or they hit a certain place, or, you know, I mean, I had a major chronic illness, which was like my pandemic about 10 years ago. That's actually why my hair turned white. I had severe oxidative stress. I've had 3 near-death experiences, and I had E. coli that pretty much almost took me out. And I was in the hospital for over a month. And from that perspective, It's the fact that it's kind of like people will love themselves when they've lost weight, when they've gotten married, when they've had a baby, when they've had these goals externally, like you're talking about. And
Mm-hmm.
the thing is that it's the radical self-love in the moment now. And I know this might sound a little crazy, but one of the most important things, I've been on a weight loss journey most of my life. I still struggle with it, but I've also come into this feeling as comfortable as possible in my own skin, knowing that the stretch marks and the scars and the imperfections and things like
Yes.
that are the roadmap to the journey that I've been on in this body. And yet it's taking me to Hollywood and taking me here and doing all these amazing things all over the world. So it's like, again, it's that gratitude of thank you, body, for
Yes,
holding this
hugging
space for
yourself.
me.
Yeah.
And, doing that. And they even call that
Gratitude.
havening, where you do that kind of
Yes.
stuff too.
Uh-huh.
But it's the idea that, like, when you're, if you have that extra piece of cake and you're on a restrictive diet, et cetera, it's not going into that baseball bat that people take on themselves and then they just throw everything out. And realizing that we're always divine beings having human experiences. And from that perspective, we expand out from that, but we don't expect perfection. And so therefore, if you make a small thing or you make a small improvement, prizing yourself for the fact that, hey, I just made a good improvement that I hadn't done before. And even like with the Infinity Life, honestly, my personal core wound, I feel like, has been deleted by doing that. It's like literally, I don't even feel it in my body of where that is something that is even important any longer. And that to me is a miracle, because it was always, it's like the filter that we always look through things. Is how
Filters.
we,
Yeah.
our whole life is done through that. And some people see that through, different lenses. But in the sense of where, if I'm not better than anybody else, but this is my own reality show, and I'm showing up in the best version of myself and trying to be the better version of myself in every moment, then you have more and more moments that are good and at a high frequency than the ones that are bad. And not making even the distinction between the two is just the idea that that's living. Like, I'm a horrible housekeeper. I'm a terrible housekeeper. Like, literally, I live in clutter, and I literally just one of those people of where it's like, that's just something of where I have thousands of books. It's something that, I like books all over me, around me. I want them to be accessible. So, it looks like Dumbledore's bookstore. But in that sense, I'm not going to go out there and do some sort of a, like how to clean up your clutter in 30 days.
Not your wheelhouse. Not your wheelhouse.
No, exactly. And find what your secret sauce is. It's kind of like, even on a team, when you're working with business, a lot of this kind of ideology now is that everybody needs to be a clone of each other and think the same and talk the same and act the same. But what I love is that if I look at an American baseball team, I've got the pitcher, I've got the umpire, I've got the first baseman, the second, third, I've got the outfield, I've got the whole thing covered. We're still on the same team, but we have our own talents and we know what we're good at.
Yes. And I think that's the key that I'm seeing happening right now, is raising the consciousness of teams and organizations. Like, it starts with an individual leader to awaken to their perspective. But I am not defined by my past experiences. I can be open and look and invite other people who have great gifts and skills, that then together we can build that team. One of the things that, Barbie, I'd love to kind of, really focus in on, because it's such a powerful place to be, is in that space of leading. Where I'm hearing you say this, like, by doing things, you're awakening to yourself. You're now living that space. So you're leading yourself. I love what our beautiful mentor Rex S always says: be the source, not the response. Be the source. You are the source. You are possibilities, infinite possibilities. So, when you're getting yourself going, you've now kind of identified, you're living yourself with, more aligned, you're in your heart, you're starting to move forward, things are shifting, you're awakening. What now? How have you found in your leadership, day in and day out, in those moments where, like, kind of shared a little bit earlier, what is that kind of secret that you have in those moments when you have that, gee, I got to lead myself today. I know I've got this commitment. Things are happening, but maybe they're not happening as fast as I want them to be. And I find that many leaders, you want things now, you want to be in action, but hey, it's not happening. How do you deal with that? Like, how have you been able to trust the process, trust source, to be able to move in a way that's purposeful and divinely called?
Well, I think it's also the whole concept of divine timing. And one of
Mm,
the things that I think has been a really big eye opener for me too is that as a born leader,
mm,
I don't want to lead anyone who doesn't want to be led.
mm. Stop
And
there, mic drop.
that's
There it is. That's the key.
huge, huge
That's the
thing,
key.
because it's that whole,
Mm,
taking a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. I think that's the part that, I love to work in flow states with cohesive
mm,
groups and letting them find their super sauce and, the thing that is good
mm,
about them, and focusing again more on the things that they're doing right than the things that they're doing wrong. Because anybody can criticize and point that stuff out. And it creates so much stress in relationships and in business places, of where you always think that
mm,
your boss has got, they think you're always up to no good or not doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're always stressed out thinking that you're gonna get in trouble, which is very bad for your health. And
mm,
I think that instead, by being a leader, but almost standing solo and calling those people who want to be led by you, is the best
mm,
thing that you can do, because then they're choosing to be with you, as opposed to that
mhm,
force of where you're forcing people who don't want to be led to be a part of that. And I think that now I see a lot of kind of shifts in corporations too. I just kind of came into the NFT space with some people last week from New York City, who are just doing some amazing stuff. I mean, like, they're winning Oscars and Golden Globes, and they're doing all these different things that, we're talking about possible avatars for the Women Gone Wild book with women and digital stuff, that this is
awesome.
totally not
I
my
love it. I
language.
love that
But
too.
um they're so tight in the way that they all look at everything as possibilities, and they don't care if people don't understand the language. They say, we'll help you, we'll train you, we'll look at this, how do we,
Yeah.
solve a problem that's never been an issue before, because nobody's ever done 3D, metaverses and things like that. But it
Mhm.
adds a different flavor and a different distinction. I mean, people are selling you real estate on there, which is like, can't even think about that. But it's really finding, I found in the last couple of years that I speak in fairy tales, and that,
Mm,
like, for myself, I feel like a Cinderella, in the sense of where it's like people have been very unkind to me in a lot of ways most of my
mm,
life, in a lot of places of where they didn't want me to shine. But ultimately, by keeping a pure heart, I've still, my goal has been, and my purpose has been, to serve humanity, knowing that there is good in all different places. You just have to go find it. And the second fairy tale is the ugly duckling, because for me, I've always felt like,
mm.
I was that outcast person who just didn't fit in, because I was so different from other people. But the realization was that technically I'm a swan, and I've been hanging out with ducks. And so I needed to go find the swans. So I think
Yeah.
in some ways, and Hollywood right here in California is a perfect example of that. People come from
Mm.
all over
Uh-oh, I think we may be having a bit of a Wi-Fi issue there, Barbie.
to be able
There we
to,
are.
come here for their dream. And I've known supermodels who, were 6'1", 6'2", tall, 110 pounds. People call them Scarecrow, or, Casper, because they were really
Mm,
pale, etc. And they were making $500,000 on the runway in New York City, but they still felt ugly because of the people that had called them names when they were younger. It wasn't
right.
until they got to this new space that they felt beautiful, or they were
Mm,
valued for what they were doing. So that's the part, in the sense of where, find people that will appreciate what is unique about you. And if the people that are around you are not appreciating you, go find other people that will, that kind of resonate in your own frequency. You can join a club, you can go to a group, you can do all sorts of things. It's like, it's a really important thing. But if you stay there with those other people that don't accept you, and continuously, wonder why your life isn't moving
yeah.
anywhere different,
You're just gonna get the same
it's
thing. That's
that you
that's
have to
the
find that
that's the
inner
key.
strength and the courage to say,
Yeah.
I need to go find my people. And the internet and the pandemic has really given us an opportunity to find all sorts of people. I mean, that's, how I found you last year in these beautiful
Yeah.
spaces. And then what was so funny is that the more spaces that I kept joining, the more I'd say, oh, hi, Sandra, it's nice to see you again.
Hi.
And oh, there's this person. And oh, yeah, it's like, a lot of us are really in these same centered groups, because that's where we resonate.
Yes, yes. And I can't believe we're already at the top of the hour. Hopefully you can hear me, Barbie. I was running into a few little
Uh-oh, I
Wi-Fi
lost my
glitches.
mic. Hold on one second.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there's Barbie. Hopefully that's going to work. I hope we're still live. We are having some tech issues here in Canada. So thank you so much. I think we may have lost Barbie. I'm hoping not. But I think we may be having to say goodbye, unfortunately, at the top of the hour. Thank you so much, everyone. We're just having some technical issues. So thank you, Barbie, so much to you for everything that you're doing, the beautiful work, the lives that you are absolutely transforming. There you are. I was just saying thank you. Can you hear me now? Barbie, can you hear me now?
I can't hear you anymore.
Oh,
Unfortunately, I
okay.
got a call that just kicked me out of the sound
Oh,
pod.
okay. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to say
But
bye-bye. Thank
thank
you
you.
so
Thank you.
much.
It was a
Thank
really,
you.
really
Thank you.
nice conversation. I hope you can still hear me. And
Yes.
thank you so much for the opportunity. And, just continue, Sandra, with all the things that you're doing too, because we're all works in process. And the thing about it is I know you have so many people that in your communities around the world that need the message that you have to have. And each one of us has an individual voice. So I just encourage in closing for everybody to go out there and find exactly what is their own secret sauce and special thing that, makes life juicy and delicious for them.
Thank you
So
so much. Well,
thank
blessings,
you.
everyone. And as we complete, I'm going to close out our beautiful opportunities today. Thank you, everyone. It has been an absolute delight.